The Lone Barone is the 9th episode of the 3rd season of Everybody Loves Raymond. This is directed by Mackenzie, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. I thought this was a brilliant episode. We have one moment with Robert in particular that I just thought was fabulous. The episode starts off with Debra telling Ray he has to wait in for a package because she's ordered some curtains. And then we cut to Robert in his new apartment, and he is so happy. I don't think I've ever seen him so happy. And his dog is there. It's absolutely adorable. Amy comes over, and Robert introduces his apartment as the happiest place on earth. And everything seems to be going well for a couple of seconds. And then Amy starts to make some suggestions about rearranging the furniture. And Robert's not really comfortable with this. So he goes to visit Ray. And Ray mentions that he's waiting for curtains. And Amy had been also talking about the curtains in Robert's apartment. So if he was going there to try and escape that conversation, that wasn't exactly happening. And Ray basically went off on one about how controlling Debra is. I don't actually think she is controlling, but that's kind of what it seemed like. Ray had to wait for the parcel. He couldn't go in the shower. They're going to the movie theatre to see a film Debra likes. And at one point he referred to himself as a hostage. And I don't think Ray believes that. I don't think he believes he is a hostage. He was just letting off steam. But Robert really took it to heart. He leaves. Doug comes over with the parcel. He's delivering the curtains. And then we cut to the next scene and Ray comes home. And I initially thought it was just a coincidence. For example, Debra mentions that there's a spider upstairs, and Ray had mentioned to Robert that he always has to try and get rid of the spiders. And I thought, this is just a coincidence. And then Debra mentioned the hostage. And I realised she must have found out about Ray's conversation with Robert. And she says something that I think is quite dramatic. I don't think it was predictable. Maybe it was, but not to me. She says that she heard it from Robert right before they broke up. Robert and Amy have broken up. And I feel like, in my opinion at least, the instant conclusion is that Robert broke up with Amy because he didn't like her trying to control the apartment and he felt like he was suffocating. But actually, Amy broke up with Robert because he's not ready to take the next step in their relationship where Amy is. And I feel like that's fair enough. If somebody in a relationship is dragging their heels and they're not where you are, then maybe breaking up is the right decision. But I feel like they should have had a couple of conversations before making a drastic decision. This scene in particular, I feel like went on a little bit too long. It wasn't the most interesting, at least until Marie and Frank come over. And the first thing Marie says is, "How dare you?" And it was beautifully delivered. And obviously she's annoyed at Ray because she believes Ray has now taken away her potential future grandchildren. And then Robert comes over. And this is the part of the episode I absolutely loved. Because he obviously, he's come over to say that he's broken up, or Amy broke up with him, unaware that everybody else knows this. And Ray tries to tell him that actually everything he said was just a joke, he was just being funny, and he finally, it took him some time, but he eventually managed to say some nice things about being married. And Frank's response, "I would like a minute for rebuttal," I absolutely loved. Marie's response to Frank, I absolutely loved, definitely very funny. But then we have Robert saying something that I think is really powerful. But before we get there, we get something funny from Ray because Debra says to Robert, "But you and Amy were doing fine until he screwed things up." And Ray says rather adorably, "See, always there," which I rather liked. My delivery is not very good, but in the episode, very funny. And Marie says to Robert, "I think you're being selfish, Robbie." And Robert replies, "Good, it's about time." I absolutely loved that. Robert has always done things for everybody else. He's always lived by everybody else's rules, and certainly living with Marie and Frank, it was always their way, and now he has the chance to think of himself and put himself first. And I love that he finally acknowledged that. And I absolutely loved those few moments where he was telling everybody, it's my turn to be selfish and to think of me, and I really loved it. And I feel like that should have been the final scene. Ending on a bit of comedy would have been good, but the scene in the bedroom afterwards with Debra and Ray it was fine. It wasn't bad, but it was not that interesting. So a bit of a flat way to end the episode. But I think ending with Robert and then maybe a bit of comedy once he left, just to end on a slightly funnier note, would have been a better way to end the episode. But in general, I thought it was really well done. Yes, the conversation at the dinner table with Ray and Debra went on a little bit longer than I think it should have done, but everything else was very well done. Really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm not saying I'm happy Amy and Robert are not together, absolutely not. I won't say what happens with their relationship going forward or anything, but I do like seeing this side of Robert. I really like this side of Robert, and The Lone Barone is definitely a really good episode. Definitely one that I really thoroughly enjoyed.